Hello, welcome to Sky Sweaty Record Review, episode 58. It's the only new music review show hosted by a French professor immediately after getting off the elliptical at the YMCA. This last week has been fun. I reviewed the Chainsmokers and they retweeted me, which was wild. I reviewed a Panic at the Disco concert. It's all been fun, pop, pop, pop. Today is not going to be fun, and it's not going to be pop. It is going to be what I can describe only as hard listening. I'm going to be reviewing an album called Conspiracy Tapes by The Black Dog. Now you might think, Black Dog, that's cute. Like that stupid restaurant in Nantucket, something like that. Or like the Led Zeppelin song, is this going to be a Greta Van Fleet Led Zeppelin album? No, this is by one of the oldest electronic groups in the world. They're from the late 80s. And it's highly ambient, barely musical. But before I can really get into a review, it's definitely time for Professor Payne's pretentious preface. You see behind me here some examples of the plates from the encyclopedia as published by Diderot and d'Alembert in the 18th century. So if you don't know about this, the first real distribution of an encyclopedia was in the 18th century in France. And they came with these beautiful images, this is about the art of mining. And it was explaining how it worked and how the machines were. And they did all sorts of things. There's surgery, there's silk work, there's carpentry. Anything you can imagine, any science, any art was described and disseminated through this encyclopedia. It was the first and most successful attempt to democratize information. It is the birth of the Enlightenment, the true birth, the concept that scientific progress and understanding, we didn't have to rely on superstition, on religion, on God, on tea leaves, whatever. We had it in black and white, written out for us in ways that could be understood. What does that have to do with The Black Dog? Well, this album, The Conspiracy Theory, is, I believe, the requiem for the Enlightenment. It's not an easy listen. It depressed me, okay? Honestly, I'm a little bit I was working out and my girlfriend was there and she was all happy after her workout and I was kind of dark. I felt bad after listening to this album. That doesn't mean you shouldn't listen to it. But it's the feeling that it gave me. Because what they did is, apparently they released 5 albums over the last year or so. Whatever, I don't know how long it took them. And they released these hour-long interviews with different people who believed in different conspiracies. And the musical bed is this really ambient, dark music. Kind of like the least listenable Brian Eno stuff. Just like that. Not as bad as that, but you get the point. Very ambient. One song sort of has a drum beat. One song kind of has something that might be considered texture, as a synthesizer comes in over another synthesizer. But basically, this is creating an atmosphere. And that atmosphere is one of paranoia and psychosis. Each song is taken from these hour-long interviews, and they cut them down to 12 minutes. 5 tracks of 12 minutes each. So it's an hour-long album. And then they do the whole album again instrumental, which I wouldn't listen to. I don't like it, ambient music that much. Sorry. But what they do with this speaking, these people speaking, is really interesting. It's very of the time. It's very much the zeitgeist of our country, of our world. They're British, right? So, the first track is called Flat Earth. And it's this discussion between a flat earther and a non-flat earther. The second one is called Christian Science, interview with a Christian scientist. The third one I'm going to get to in a second is just interview with some guy named Brian Harvey. Fourth one is more Gellons, and the fifth one is anti-vaxx. But what makes this an interesting album is that it's not just ha ha ha, look at the dumb people, and oh, we're so stupid, what's happened to our world today? There's none of that. It's very interpretive. You listen to these people speak, and the sadness that overcomes you, because they're not demons, they're not necessarily complete idiots, but they just don't trust reason. They've abandoned reason. They've abandoned the principles of the Enlightenment. I think the most interesting one is this track called Brian Harvey. And as far as I can tell, it's just an interview with someone named Brian Harvey. And it's 12 minutes of this guy talking, mostly in like a Cockney accent. I can prove everything, right? Rupert Murdoch's not gonna get me. And he just, that's a bad accent, sorry. And the police went to the police and they just laughed at me. Don't make me go to war with you. And there's all this like weird paranoia, and you have no idea what he's actually talking about. Like he feels paranoia. He feels like everything is coming in around him and that he knows the truth and that no one else knows the truth. But it's just psycho. He's just a psycho. And you feel, at least I feel, sympathy for him. I feel sadness when listening to him. The next track, Morgellons, apparently there are these people who think that there's these sores on their bodies that doctors say isn't there. And like they pick at their skin, which basically makes the sores happen. And they believe that science has led them astray. Really sad business. And so this one starts off with, it seems like a video, like the audio is taken from a video by Morgellons, where they just like make a prayer to Jesus to save them, and they talk, ask God what is your greatest weakness and he will come and save you. And the sadness that you feel listening to this. And the anti-vaxx song is like just some California dude, and he's like talking about his life and just like, I started hearing rumors, and so I did some research, and at first it seemed like vaccines were good. Did you know polio doesn't even really exist? I mean, like saying crazy things like that. And that's basically the whole album. Now, I don't know when you would listen to this album. I don't know. It's late at night, and you're tired, and you just want to listen to something, or maybe on a road trip. It's not unlistenable, but it's a hard thing because you're really coming face to face with this horrible thing that's happened in our society. And what's clear, what's made clear by this album, is that it's actually not just the democratization of knowledge. It's the democratization of ignorance. It's what the internet has created. It's what technology has created that's left our puny human brains incapable of processing all of these things. Now, that's what the Black Dog did. They put these 5 people on record. And, you could take this record and shoot it into space for aliens and say, like, hey, this is what happened to our society. This is the end of the Enlightenment. Okay. The next episode, I'm actually going to take up this alien theme, I think. I think I'm going to listen to some, like, trap hip-hop and try to explain it to aliens. That could be a fun idea. Until then, I'm Sky. I don't say that. And there's the camera.